Welcome to the Figaf demo. We're going to show how you can do a B2B migration. If you look at your B2B migration overview here, we could, for example, say we are interested in migrating everything we have for a specific customer. And we can see that for bestseller, we have a bunch of operation mappings that we need to migrate, one of them being the orders 98A from Edifact. We can see a lot have already been migrated, but now we want to migrate this new one and say this should be migrated. We then select our company or subsidiary. We're just going to do it to the main company. We then pick our customer and say this was for bestseller and this was for bestseller Malta. We then select a template and we say we have an order and this is Edifact. So we can see we have different versions: procurement, sales, inbound order, Edifact. That is our template, where we then have within the template two different versions, 96 and 98. We will take the 98. By default, we will have the development systems of our own company and of the partner. So we just select now the type systems and the versions. So it's Edifact, 98A. And we then select the respective identifiers. We know that here in this case, it's going to be GLN codes or GS1 codes. On the IDOC side, it's here, and here is IDOC ID. We select the communication channels. We check how our operation mapping, if it's ready for migration. It is. So we go down and look. We make sure that we, for example, say for partners, we use local objects. We want to reuse CPI migrated functional libraries. We want to make sure we pick the right version if we have multiple versions. We run a second check now that we have changed our mapping of the different objects. All is good and can therefore be migrated. Migration started. All the iflows, design objects are being created. TPM agreements are being created. Scenario is being created in TPM. And finished. Closed. We can now go back to the overview, and we can now see that Malta now has indeed a iflow, which we can open in CPI. Same time, we can also see there is an agreement we can open in CPI. Here is the newly migrated design object for the mapping. I will deploy it. Similar, I will here for our agreement in TPM created, as we can see here, for our Allure company, for Malta. I will activate this newly created agreement. And after completion, I can synchronize my PO system and synchronize now my Figaf system here. Make sure we have everything up to date. And synchronization is completed. And we can now go and look and say, do we have test cases we want to migrate? We can then see here by the naming of the partner, we then have here a Malta bestseller test case. Let's migrate this. We can add it to an existing test case that we might have for bestseller. And here we have then our CPI inbound sales order for bestseller. I migrate this test cases. It is now completed. And I could now run the test here. I can also go down to my B2B overview where you now can see everything we have. And if we look for just our bestseller, you can now see that we have a newly created bestseller agreement. It is active. There is one test case already assigned to this. We can go and look at this test case and run it. And then go and look at my testing results. Let's poll for messages. I got messages back. I can look at my results. And in the results, I can see, well, there was an issue. That's because now we are no longer doing the same sender and receiver where there was some kind of lookup mapping that's no longer working. So therefore we can see that's a gap that we need to address. And then we can see that there are some creation dates that were not in the old mapping and other things that the TPM, the Integration Suite TPM, will populate for you automatically. And you have to then decide, is this okay? Is this an acceptable gap that I can ignore? Or is it like something where, oh no, the test indicator, that is something we have to look into because we might need to change all of our partner profiles or correct our mapping so we can deal with this. And that way you can do your migration and do a complete regression test and get an overview of what the status is after the migration.